Hello guys, and welcome to a new Wargame commentary today by me, Vulcan. Today we're looking at a 1v1 on dual field, and I'm on the NATO side and I'm playing against second commander, or Bear, on the pack side. So today I'm using the 3-push strategy, and it's just something I really thought up. I'm not sure if anyone's called it that before or anything like that. It's just what I thought was a good name for it. Basically, it's a strategy where you use tanks, ATGM vehicles, and AA all together in one big sort of, not a big clump, but a micromanaged sort of maybe line for pushing. Now, that's why we're on dual field, because this strategy would not work on any other kind of map, I would presume. It needs to be on a quite open map. But anyway, you can see I've always wanted to try this out for a while. So I've brought in M1A1 Abrams and Bradleys, right? Now Bradleys are like the perfect thing to bring in with Abrams. And the reason being is that Abrams are actually just so good at being anti-ATGM units. If we look at the Abrams stats, we can see that we have an accuracy of 11 and an AP power of 9. Now that's really, really good for taking out the ATGMs, especially on the move with its exceptional stabilizer. The thing that's really good about the Abrams though is it has 7 side armor. This is amazing for countering ATGM hits. It can literally take about 2 ATGMs in the side depending on the power of the ATGM, and that is so much better than the Leopard 2 that it makes them so much more worth having in if you're bringing Bradleys along. And the Bradleys provide that heavy ATGM support that you really need if you come across things like T-80Us, for example. That's when the Bradleys come into effect. Also, the Bradleys can be used for sniping high priority targets. Now, furthermore, I also have these Marder Roland 2s, which I was talking about, the AA that I was going to bring with them, and they are there just to make sure I have air cover over the top of these. I also have my Gazelle Recon here. I've got 4 M113s, or 4 sets of 2 M113s with Jaegers in them, and I'll explain why I'm doing that in a second. And I've also got 2 little groups here of command vehicles with Chaparrals and M113s with Stingers and Hemps to keep the missiles resupplied. And I've also got these 2 Hemps here, which will be pushing up behind the Bradleys and the Abrams and the Marder Roland 2s to keep them resupplied as well. So a pretty organised group of units. You can see I've moved this command armor's on the left, this one's on the right. This one's going to be heading over to Echo, and this one's going to be going to Delta first of all. I'm going to abandon Charlie. I've deleted my FOB. And this M113, these group of M113s are going to go all the way up to Gulf and try and dominate the middle sector. Now the reason they're in M113s is because people underestimate the fact that they're actually really, really good on roads. They go quite fast, and also they have that armor that some other APCs don't, and a quite accurate MG, which enables them to have decent fire support for the Jaegers themselves. I think the Fuchs one is actually less accurate than them, but they are very fast, the Fuchs, so that's why you would use a Fuchs. But in this case, I just wanted to have a force that could really well defend the middle. And because the M113s are really cheap with the Jaegers, I can bring in a few extra units at no extra cost, just because I'm using M113s instead of Fuchs. Anyway, as you can see, the game's started, and the idea is that I'll just be micromanaging these Abrams. Now, the reason I'm not actually moving to begin with here is because I was actually AFK when the game actually started. Because I wasn't expecting the timer to be so short, because we were waiting for a while for the deployment to finish. But you'll see in a minute, I will start going when I kind of realise that, oh crap, the game has actually started. But off we go with the Sultan to Echo. My Jaegers, once they get onto the roads in these M113s, do start to go very, very fast. You can see they start all speeding up after they're having their destruction derby race down the road. But yeah, I'm originally fast moving all of these guys to get up towards this forest here and this open ground on the right, because I really wanted to push around the right. If you look at this is like the perfect tank push area. Yeah, there's a load of hedgerows which you could hide HGMs in, but not many people expect a right side push. Most people normally go down the middle, or they go around the left side. Now, putting so many points into tanks early on is a big risk. Don't get me wrong. Basically, the only reason you ever want to do that is if your strategy specifically revolves around it. For my opponent, he didn't anticipate me using heavy tanks, so he didn't have any money left to bring in any himself. So I kind of got away with it in that respect. But for instance, if he brought in a T80U, I was doing tests the other day with Boogie 3, and basically found out that the T80U is incredibly powerful against any NATO tank at 1v1. So that's something I was really looking out for. But I've got a Bradley CFV on the ground, as well as this Gazelle AH1 in the air to provide my recon. This I tried to keep behind my Abrams throughout the battle. Anyway, early on, I send this Gazelle straight over towards his front line. He's already scouted me with MO9, and I thought I would return the favour, but as a little bit of an error there, I actually just threw my Gazelle straight into the forest, which is never a good idea, so don't try that. But as you can see, I do get my Jaegers into this middle sector, and they are having firefights with Motor Strelky and the Topaz 2As. Now, I was liking his choice of these. I was quite worried. It's just that he didn't really put them in the right place to provide fire support against these Jaegers, and before he knew it, I'd already destroyed his Motor Strelky. So they weren't really effective enough to even damage my Jaegers at all once they were in these buildings. So I've got basically 2 squads in each of these larger buildings, and my M113s are spread out around the road. But as his Topaz 2As start to get into a decent position, my Jaegers are actually given the chance to get some decent rocket shots. Now in the meantime, he's pushing KPZ T55 AMs towards my Abrams. Now I presumed this was like AGGM bait, but I actually kept my Bradley moving on purpose so that he didn't waste AGMs on those units. Now, my Jaegers continuously fire onto these Topaz 2As, but the Topaz 2As should have really been firing back at my Jaegers when he could see them. And the reason for that being is that my M113s are only worth 5 points each. Now, knowing that he's pretty much all his infantry is on this side of the town, I do push my Abrams a bit further up on the right to take out some of his tanks, and the Topaz 2As which are really threatening my Jaegers in the middle. But the idea of having all these Jaegers in the middle was really to basically allow me to move this Delta command vehicle up to Gulf once I secured it, and that would give me a load of points. But you can see my micromanagement on the right, getting all my troops into position, and then getting this Abrams back so that it doesn't get taken out by any ATGMs or stuff like that. But you can see basically all of my line will continuously swing round to this side of the map. So I'm going to go through Juliet and up to India. Now when I saw he was bringing in Sturms, I really thought to myself, oh dear, he knows how to counter this. And the unfortunate thing for him was he didn't really micro that properly, and therefore didn't keep it at a decent distance to fire on my Abrams, because it went straight into the range of my Abrams, and because my Abrams is really accurate, even if he'd stopped to fire, he probably still would have died. So there, the Sturm was probably one of the best units to use throughout this battle, but unfortunately he didn't use it properly. Now in the meantime on the right, I brought in a Rep for Mass squad to take out this recon over here. That wasn't intentional, I just dropped them out of the VAB into the bush here, and then they spotted this UAZ. So I just sent the VAB forwards to go and take that out at close range, and left the Rep for Mass in this bush here to be my recon on the right in case he decides to rush down this road, because My actual back line is very undefended, and I actually don't have any recon back here. But I was really hoping that I wouldn't have to worry about that, because he would be focusing so much on my main force, which consists of 4 Abrams, which cost roughly about, I think they cost 135 points each. So that's almost like 500 odd points just sitting there at the front line. So you're going to have to be really worried about that, and the last thing he's probably going to do is head around the back to take out Delta and Echo. Although later on in the game I find out that's what he tries to do, but unfortunately doesn't, because he runs out of fuel. But anyway, the Gazelle AH1, I bring in another one to help me out, and again he brings forward a Sturm, and it doesn't fire a single shell really before it dies. And I don't know, like if he'd brought in the Sturm up here and the Sturm to the left at the same time, and then focused on one of my Abrams, he would have destroyed it, and then he would have destroyed the next one and the next one, because the less Abrams I have, the easier it is to counter this push. I was a bit worried when that popped up behind me, but luckily this Abrams was close enough to take it out before the Sturm actually stopped and fired, because the idea is that they're supposed to use their range. And here I do spot a Book M1. Now I'm not sure why it didn't fire a Gazelle, because that is easily in range. I don't know if the Book M1 was actually I think it may have been too far in the forest to actually fire, but it basically didn't, so I got away with it unless he couldn't even see it. Anyway, as soon as I saw it, I pulled it back because I didn't want this another Gazelle AH1 getting taken out, so I thought I would just rely on the Bradley for now. But you can see how I'm using every single one of these units separately. They are all moving on separate move commands. That's not one big move command. Basically, I've got these 4 Abrams, and they're going to come up this ridge like this. If he'd had infantry on the top of this ridge, I would have been fucked, but he didn't, and I knew that because that's what the idea of the scout helicopter flying by was about. And basically I knew that there was units in this forest, so I keep them as far back towards the edge of the ridge as I can, in case I need to drop them back. And I then have brought in a couple of AML-60s to just pepper the area against the possible infantry. Now we do just about manage to micro this A1 Abrams back before he gets loads of missiles in the side, which was just lucky enough. And I've also got an ITO coming up, which was originally intending to take out the Book. But as the Book runs away, it actually gets sniped by one of my Abrams up here, I believe. So that doesn't end well for his Book, and that gives me 85 points. You can see the mortars coming in now to pepper his motor Chelsea, but with the Abrams here, the Bradleys, they don't last very long at all. Anyway, my ITO rushes up into the bush. Now, ITOs are actually really effective at close range. I've never really shown this before, but look how effective that was. Now, my ITO there is worth about, I think it's 20 points, and his strop was worth 62 points. But basically, against a cannon unit like a tank, the ITO is actually aims faster than a tank. You can see I've still got these Hemps up here, ready to resupply and refuel all of these vehicles. So that's why you need Hemps with this, because the Abrams at this point are actually getting pretty low on fuel. And without that, I would have possibly got stuck out in the open. But basically, the Bradleys are that heavy fire support. They come with the Bradley IFVs, which are the vehicle versions. They come with 6 toes, and the Bradley CFV, which is the recon version, come with 12. So they're all very good. I don't know why his MI9 was on the ground there. I think it was because it was by an FOB and he didn't realise. But I managed to snipe that with an M1 Abrams, which is not the best thing to happen. But I also am looking at taking out basically his base now. All my Abrams have moved up, supported by my Bradleys. And now I take out his CV in India. Now he does get a really nice shot there from his Sturm onto my Marder Roland 2. And at this point he decides to bring in an Mi-24V. Now this was a very good plan. I'm also in the meantime using my Bradleys to try and attack his Sturm. Bit of a miss micromanagement here, with the Bradley CFB, unfortunately, I leave it in range of the T-55s, and he does get 3 nice shots onto it. Luckily, the Bradley has enough health. But he does get this Mi-24V forwards, and I'm actually shitting my pants, because I thought at this point I hadn't got any Marder Roland 2s left, but I actually had one back here that I'd kind of forgotten about, but I knew was there, because otherwise I wouldn't have found it so quickly. Now, with that, I'm moving it forwards, and these ATGMs are coming in thick and fast from this Mi-24V, but as soon as my Marder Roland 2 gets up there and hits him in the face with it, it forces his ATGM that was probably going to hit to actually miss as he pulls away the Mi-24V, because the thing is with Mi-24Vs, they can't fire ATGMs while they're moving, so in that respect he can then fire. So basically, because he's now on a disadvantage and he doesn't really have anything to take care of this Marder Roland 2 anymore, I'm just continually moving it forwards, but I have to be careful not to push the Abrams too far forwards, otherwise it's going to get an Abrams going to get hit in the face just like that. But before the Abrams takes the second ATGM, I managed to shoot it down with the Marder Roland 2. So yeah, I have a couple of really damaged units, but I'm hiding them behind these units that aren't damaged. And that's probably the best way to minimize damage. It's basically just micromanaging your damaged units to the back of your line and then pushing forwards the undamaged units in front of them. Anyway, I captured this FOB, and I know it's pretty much GG now, because being able to fix up my Abrams and Bradleys now, all I need to do is snipe these couple of T-813s and I've won the game, pretty much. But that was just like a sequential push through the entire map on the right side, and I didn't lose a single unit from that rush. The only thing I lost, I think, that was substantial was just the group of units in the middle and a Marder Roland 2. So he had the right idea. I was talking to him about this afterwards, and I was saying how it's quite hard to counter. Now, the best way to have countered this would have been to have more ATGMs than I did. So I only had a couple of ATGM units. So for instance, if you brought in 3 Sturms at the same time, it would have been really effective, because you would have been able to shoot at my Abrams from multiple sides. And if you, for instance, took out 1 Abrams, then you're pretty much laughing, because you'd have the ATGMs to take out the rest of the Abrams before the Abrams could fire back and take out the Sturms. But the idea is that I would have the Bradleys to counter his ATGMs as well, because the Bradleys have very, very accurate ATGMs, and they can really be useful for taking out things like Sturms, for example, and enemy AA and stuff like that. So either way, the best way to counter that sort of 3 push is to use more ATGMs like Jeeps, Sturms, all that sort of thing. I really thought that he was going to catch me out at some point, but unfortunately, with me driving forwards into his base, it didn't really work, because I was pushing my advantage too much for him to be able to react. And as soon as you've got the advantage in that sort of push scenario, you've got to work out how many points you've taken off the enemy already. And if you've taken off, for instance, 500, you know that you've pretty much got a good chance of being able to push that advantage to the victory. So anyway, that's a quick 1v1 today. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I found this game actually really fun. I was just playing with Bear for fun to check out this new strategy that I've just been working out, because I've wanted to try out Bradleys with Abrams for a while, because they do that in real life or they did in the Gulf War. So yeah, anyway, hopefully you guys have enjoyed that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.